Okay, let's move on. Talking about foreign destinations, Sri Lanka is in all kinds of turmoil. A huge military contingent raided the Gulf phase where the Aragalaya protesters have been camped out for the better part of the last 3 months. Remember, the attack comes just 24 hours after Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as the new president. Is the island nation headed for another round of uprising?
Hours after Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as the president of Sri Lanka, the crackdown began. Security forces raided anti-government protest camps in Colombo. Late into the night, soldiers in riot gear, armed with assault rifles, marched through the area where rows of tents of protesters stood on both sides of the road in front of the president's secretariat. And they tore down the Gota Gogama camps and allegedly assaulted the protesters. Entry to the Gulf phase protest site in Colombo was blocked and barricaded by security personnel amid the late-night clampdown. As daylight broke, the road to the office of the president was completely cleared. Security forces took control of the entire secretariat, which was recently stormed by thousands of protesters.
जो बॉर्डर्स के जवान हैं वो सड़कों पर उतर कर आ गए हैं और एक तरफ जो है ये प्रदर्शनकारी जो है वो लगातार यहाँ पर तैनात हैं इनकी तरफ से लगातार नारेबाजी जो है की जा रही है.
Protesters had feared a crackdown by Wickremesinghe, who is seen as an ally of the Rajapaksas.
They are going to destroy us, but we never give up. We are the people who want to clean this nasty politics.
Wickremesinghe was sworn in on Thursday after winning a parliamentary vote. He in turn appointed another Rajapaksa ally, Dinesh Gunawardene, as Prime Minister.
We have gone back. We have to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, but we can do it.
While Wickremesinghe has vowed to pull Sri Lanka out of a crippling economic crisis. Will the brutal crackdown on protesters further fuel the fire that has been spreading through the country for more than 100 days?
Go across to my colleague Purnima Murli, who's joining us live from the Gulf phase, just across the presidential secretariat, where things seem to be a little calmer now. But what exactly is going on? What are the protesters saying? Many of their camps have been dismantled. The military is there out in full force. Are they going to continue to put up a fight, or are they going to go back home?
Well, at the moment, there's an uneasy calm. This particular stretch where hundreds and thousands of protesters had gathered late last night because of the midnight crackdown, many of them have left the protest site. And there were protests happening in pockets in Colombo earlier today. Their slogan was to ensure that Ranil also steps down. But at the moment, protesters say that on the 25th of July, they plan to invite citizens of Sri Lanka to come and voice out their opinion against Ranil Wickremesinghe and the current government. And they say that 25th, they are inviting all the citizens to come forward and participate in the anti-government protests. At the moment, there's an uneasy calm and heavy security deployment everywhere in and around the Gulf phase. These are heavily guarded. There are barricades outside the places that leads to presidential secretariat. At the moment, no protester is seen inside. They were all asked to leave yesterday. Some of them were assaulted. Some journalists were also assaulted. But many protesters have left the place, and they are planning to organize a massive protest on the 25th of July.
All right. Also, what are they saying about the operation seemingly that happened last night? Did it come by surprise? Were they taken aback by, how swiftly and how stealthily this whole thing happened on the same day that the new president was sworn into office?
They were taken aback because protesters were planning to hold a press conference in the afternoon, and they decided to vacate the presidential secretariat. Anyway, they thought that they could reach a middle ground, hold talks with Ranil Wickremesinghe, and they were planning to call off their protests and hold healthy discussions to ensure that there's political stability. That's the need of the hour. However, even before they were planning to vacate the place, there was a sudden raid. Many protesters were assaulted. Their tents were dismantled, including the tents that belong to the deaf and dumb community, the disabled soldiers. All the tents were dismantled and many of them were assaulted, and that in fact has not gone down well with the protesters. They were taken aback when the sudden raids took place in the wee hours today. But at the moment they say that they are going to intensify protests and not back off.
All right. Poonam Murli, many thanks for joining us live from Colombo tonight, where there is an uneasy calm after a night of raids and a military operation in which the protesters at the golf face were cleared out. All right, we'll take a quick break here on the program. When we come back, an audio clip which is a clincher in the murder of Sidhu Moosewala. We'll get you details of that story and more in just a moment when Brass Tack Superfast returns.